Welcome to our fourth episode of Embrace Paradise Raw and Real Talk with Linda. Today, we have a very informative guest with us who's going to share their experience in the Dominican Republic. Imagine coming to the DR, to the land of sunshine, and one day you wake up with an emergency and you have to go to the hospital. So our guests, Nancy and Roger, welcome to my channel.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you for joining me. And I got to meet you guys last year, and it was a blessing to meet you. I have a lot to share with my guests today. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself and just introduce yourself to our audience so they get to know you? And then I'm going to dive right in to share your experience with everybody.
Well, my name is Nancy Fournier-Leclerc, and I have with me my husband, Roger Leclerc, and we're from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and we've been coming to DR since 2012, and we love it here.
Fantastic. Nancy, share with our audience, you have had a remarkable influence on me since last year. It may not be a big deal to you, but it was for me. Can you share with our audience that what you do back in Canada?
Back in Canada, I'm a retired educator of over 32 years, and what I did in 2024 is I founded L Action. L Action is a female entrepreneurial business where I create tailored educational bundles for artists and authors to be better prepared to come into classrooms and schools. I offer, for those that want to launch their voice, Podcasting 101. And I launched a book last year. I also offer keynotes and conferences to be better connected to my book.
Fantastic. So this podcast, Raw and Real Talk with Linda, initiated with her help last year when she was in the Dominican Republic. I was blessed to meet both of you guys at a networking event, and we clicked off right away. She was kind enough to spare her time. She came to our office and helped me out to get set up. And ever since, we're bringing our voice from Linda Bahar Realty Group to you guys, sharing all the truth and all the information about Dominican Republic. So thank you for that. If anybody is looking to put a spark in their journey of getting your voice out there, as she said, she's a great resource, especially if you're a female in the industry, you don't know where to start. Please be sure to get a hold of her. I will put her information below in the comment section so you guys can get in touch with her, so you can put your blessed hands on other people to start their journey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Linda.
It's been a pleasure. So what originally, you said you've been coming to Dominican Republic since 2012. What originally brought you here from Canada?
Vacation. We only had 1 week, 10 days, family vacation. So we would come in once a year. That's all we could really spare when you work full time back in Canada. And high season, so we opted for all-inclusive resorts at that point. And as of 2014, we opted to come once or twice a year. When we retired, now we're here for longer periods. We opted to let go of it all-inclusive to be able to be with the community and come for 2 months of the year.
Absolutely. It's very much different when you come. Most younger people are only able to come for a week vacation, which all-inclusive sometimes makes sense if you're not comfortable to go explore, stay in an Airbnb. But once you're able to come for a longer extent of time, it's better to be immersed in the culture. And I'm sure building a community here was helpful to you with your experience here last year. We're going to dive on that as well, which was very helpful. What was your first impression of life in the Dominican Republic? You've been coming here for years. Can you share that with our audience?
Well, as you know, when you go to an all-inclusive, it's a gated community. So you don't really leave unless you go on an excursion. So you're kind of limited of what you can do and learn from locals, from people that are already living here. Now that we're immersed in a community, coming here for longer, we've created a community. I can register for dance classes, for Zumba, where I meet other people and get away from the beach and go more in the community to eat with locals and learn more about Dominican food and the culture, the language. We want to learn Spanish. Yeah. We're learning slowly, but
But you're French,
Yes.
so you're many steps ahead of us English-speaking people, right, Roger? Like it's much easier for you guys to communicate and learn. I would say that's a lucky point on you. That's fantastic. And I know you had an emergency experience last year. So my main question on that, did you have a travel insurance before you came to the DR?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We had medical insurance back home from Canada. I have a very good insurance from the educators plan, and I'm insured for 100 days outside of Canada. So if I want to stay longer, I do have to go back to Canada for 24 hours with proof and then go back to another country for
That's good to know. So you just go back to the country for 24 hours, be within Canada, and then you can exit and be covered for interesting. Very good.
Another 100 days. So it all depends. Every insurance is different. This is what my insurance provides for us.
You might be able to buy an optional package to...
Yes, we can.
To have it extended.
Yes. Let's say we're in Europe for 6 months instead of 100 days. Then we could buy that extended package. You're right, Roger.
You want to make sure that you have insurance. That's all I can say with what happened last year with us. If you don't have any insurance, you could get into big trouble real fast.
Absolutely. If something happens, that trouble never knocks the door, it just shows up, right? It never gives you that heads up. So
Roger always says everything is good until it's not.
absolutely. And this is one of the reason I wanted to have you guys with us is because this is one of the most commonly asked question and concern is the healthcare. Looking at dynamic and the age of the group of people that would like to retire in the Dominican, it's the retirees age. People that are getting to a stage that healthcare becomes very important for them. And they do have their coverage in the US, in Canada, and they want to make sure when they're here, they're covered. So your experience is going to be extremely powerful voice to the ones that are going to be watching this and have the questions. So it is very important, guys, to have your insurance sorted out before coming to the Dominican Republic, whether it's through your credit card, whether it's through your work, third party. Make sure you understand exactly what it covers. You have emergency contact information. We're going to dive deep with those because there's a lot of valuable information that you guys are going to pass along. When did you notice that there was something wrong? Can you just start with, because I'm sure everybody is excited to hear your experience on what happened, and just elaborate a little bit on that when you started noticing it.
Well, we're both very healthy. We go to the gym every day. I run on the beach twice a week. So 3 days prior, actually today is the anniversary. 3 days prior,
You made it.
then going to the hospital, I started to feel unwell. I was nauseous. I lost appetite, and I had pain in the lower abdomen. So I knew something was wrong, but didn't know quite what was wrong. And progressively, every day, it was getting worse.
And how long were you here at that point?
We were here for 7 weeks last year. So we were 2 days prior to going back home to Canada.
Right before going back. Yeah, you see, you never know. If it just waited a little bit, you would have been back home.
Yes.
But
And then shortly after that, if you don't mind me just...
yeah, absolutely, please do.
And maybe Roger, if I forget something, you can jump in. We weren't sure what was going on with my body, but I knew that something was definitely wrong. So I was very ill. And at that point, we decided to reach out to our son-in-law. He's a nurse practitioner back in Canada. So he did FaceTime with Roger to do a little bit of a diagnostic to decide, okay, what are we going to do at that point? So did you want to...
He had me hold the camera and then use my hand. Okay, press here, press there. And he basically said, Roger, she is in no condition to be traveling. You can't wait 2 days to come home. You need to go seek some medical advice. So he says, I would call an ambulance, and you need to do that now. So I called the office where we're staying, and they called the ambulance. The ambulance came in. Came in around 10:30 that night.
3 attendants and a translator from where we're staying, the condo complex where we are.
So somebody that spoke Spanish and English.
So that was very handy because, as you know, when you're in pain, I could not communicate. Roger was my ears, my voice, he was everything that I couldn't do. I needed to focus on my body at that.
Yeah.
So at this point, they did some tests and they saw with her vitals that she needed medical assistance. So they put her on a stretcher and brought her to the ambulance, put her in, and I got in the front seat. And we grabbed some things that we prepared before the ambulance got there that we had discussed we should bring, with us. But there was things that we definitely forgot.
We'll touch on that in a minute.
Yeah.
So anyway, we left and we went to the hospital, went to a private hospital. I don't know what the public system is like here. We've never been, but went to a public hospital.
Private hospital.
Or a private hospital. And when we got there, some of the things that occurred on our trip is we get there and they bring us into a room, and Nancy, they had put an IV in her arm, and she had a balloon that was the size of 4 eggs. It was huge. So at this point, I'm trying to get a hold of our insurance company so that they could start to process and do what they needed to do with Nancy.
Get a case number, right?
Yeah, we needed a case number. So they gave me a flip phone, which was probably 20 years old. And the flip phone, I kept losing connection. I had to call back 2-3 times. It was very, it was not a calming time right there. I could see she was in a lot of pain. I asked the nurse, can you take the IV out and put it in properly? And they would not touch her until we had a case number. That took about, I would say, close to an hour.
Okay.
And finally, with this flip phone, I ended up getting enough information. Once we had the case number, then all hell broke loose. They did a CAT scan, they did x-rays, they took blood, they fixed an ultrasound, they fixed her IV. And they did all these tests, and my insurance had said, before they do any procedure, you need to let us know so that we understand what's going on. So I said, okay. They came in and the doctor, I guess, decided that after all these tests, they had to go in with a scope and to see what was wrong, because they still weren't sure at this point. So they started wheeling Nancy upstairs to surgery. And I ended up getting on the flip phone again and trying to get a hold of my guy, which didn't go very well. Nancy had told me, you need to stay with me, and here I am. If I moved 2 feet this way, I would lose connection.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about phones afterwards. There are things that you can do when you come in from Canada with
other countries.
Other countries. You can get an eSIM. You can, that would have helped. Or I could have just taken my phone and taken it off of
Airplane
mode, and I could have used it. But I didn't even think of that.
Listen, the moment of panic,
You bet.
keep calm,
Yes.
find the best solution. But it's good that they provided you a phone at the hospital
Yes.
to be able to reach out, because sometimes people don't have the roaming and they need to contact. So I'm glad to hear that.
So anyway, Nancy is brought upstairs, and by the time I told my insurance person back in Canada, she's going upstairs. They're going in to they're going to do a scope and to see what's wrong with her. And they said, okay. By the time I got upstairs, she was already in surgery. So I didn't even get to see her.
And all I kept saying, where's my husband? Where's my husband?
Yeah.
Because the last person I wanted to see was my husband before being put to sleep,
Yeah.
But they were the anesthetist.
Anesthesiologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the only one that could speak
He
English.
spoke English, and he was very calming.
He was the person that they sent you from the reception of where you were staying to the
No, he's the one. He met her upstairs in
the hospital. So I'm gonna say the language was a barrier,
You bet.
Yes,
right?
it was. It was.
What is your suggestion in terms of that? Because
Google
you need
Translate.
to
Google
communicate.
Translate?
Google
Just
Translate.
use-
Now, to have Google Translate, you need to have an eSIM. You need to be
Internet.
You need to have internet. And it's so advanced now that you just hit a button and you can speak in English to French or whatever language to whatever language, and you speak, and then it shows them on the screen. They hit the button and they speak, and then you can read, and it's, you can converse. But it took me 3 days before I figured that one
Figured it
out.
out. You know what? So this is an important tip then, guys.
Yes.
Before you travel, Google Translate. I use it all the time because my Spanish is not good. Even though it's improving, it's nowhere near that I can clearly communicate. Practice with your Google Translate. Open it up at home, talk it, let it translate and talk back.
Yes.
It's an amazing tool to have.
You bet.
You can be 200 people with the Google Translate speaking it through the device. Practice it, get comfortable with it, not just in an emergency situation when you go to the restaurant. Anywhere you go, you will be able to easily articulate yourself and ask for what you need. There is also headphones. The new system, the headphones, you put it in your ear and you talk as they speak to you. It translates it in English in your ear.
Wow.
And you can give one to the person to put it in their ear. And when you speak English, it will translate it in Spanish to them. It's a new devices. I've seen them here and it's good. It has just like Google Translate, but it does it in a voice format. So for our
Interesting.
audience, that might be
Thank you.
helpful. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a world traveler. I would love to. I'm actually going to buy one because it will help me everywhere I go. However, English is fairly common language that helps us. But in the DR, it might be absolutely helpful. You said that you had some advice about the phone plans. I don't want to forget that because that's very important to have data and access to outside world.
So when Nancy had surgery, and it ended up being major surgery, and I had to leave her at the hospital because we were losing our condo the next day. So I left her there, not knowing that with the insurance plan, all I had to do was tell them, listen, you guys, and nobody from there told me that I'm going to take care of your flights. And, by the
Bottom line is just asking more questions too, but we didn't know it was our first experience with an emergency and insurance.
How would you know what questions to ask unless you deal with
Exactly. So I went back to our condo. We had some friends that told us that we could stay in their second bedroom. So that was somebody that helped us. We had another friend that has a vehicle that drove me back and forth. But I got on my computer and I started to try to get flights rearranged for our trip, not knowing that the insurance was supposed to do that. And I ended up getting my son to book 2 flights for me because my credit card was trying to send me a text on my phone, but my phone wasn't connected to the system. Like I hadn't put it on off of airplane mode. So anyways, I wasn't getting texts, I wasn't getting anything. And the price, every time we would go back on, it went from $1,200 to $1,600 to $2,200 to $2,800. My son paid $3,800 for 2 tickets.
Ouch.
Yes.
Ouch. Incognito mode. You don't want that happen. Put yourself incognito mode.
But
on
coming
your...
back to the phone, the question you
crazy,
asked
yes.
us was related to the phone. I think we know now, like this year when we came back, Roger put in an eSIM with an application, Saley. We're using Saley, but there's many others. We've used Airalo before. So now that we have an eSIM in our phone, then we have access to Google Translate, Google Maps when we go.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna, because I've been living here for 5 years, and anytime I travel, I used to use Airalo as well. So what I noticed is many countries, including Dominican Republic, it is better to get a local SIM card. Local SIM card in the Dominican Republic, it's about $30 a month, which is relatively cheap in comparison to what we pay to our phones in Canada. All the social platforms are covered for free, so you don't use your data. You can call Canada and US for free, 100 minutes.
100 minutes.
For free. So
Okay.
if you wanted to contact emergency to your insurance company, 1-800 numbers has a different way of putting the number in there. Again, these are something that you guys should research in advance and know what it is. Don't wait for the emergency to arrive. This is why we are sharing podcasts like this, to give you the information so you can prepare in advance and hopefully never happen, but the trouble never knocks the door or never informs you before coming. So if you get a local SIM card, you pay $30, go with your passport and tell them you want with non-commitment, and they will give it to you. And every month you go, it's pay as you go, and you just top it up. You can call WhatsApp without using any of your data.
And where would you go for that here?
Claro, Altice, any of the supermarkets have it. Even if you walk on from here to Cabarete Beach, you will see any of the phone companies. All the supermarkets like Janet, Playero, La Serena, all of them have it inside, and it's about $30, and you pay it every month. If you run out of data, you go, for example, you say you have 5 days left and you don't want to do a whole thing.
Right.
You pay like $4 and they give you 5 gigabytes of data for 5 days if you're only here for a few more days. So, and that will give you an option so you can call local Dominican numbers as well and call Canada. There is a lot of plans. They explain you very well. They have different types that if you want to call worldwide, you can do that as well, because not everybody is from Canada and US.
Right.
So if you're not under +1, you can get international number. So
That's great to know. Thank you for that tip.
Absolutely.
We'll know for next year.
yes.
The one that we're using, the only thing I can do with that is I can call on WhatsApp.
because you only have data.
Yes.
We only
Yeah, because that's a digital eSIM. It only gives you internet browsing, anything that you can do on the internet. But when you have a SIM card, let's say you're somewhere that your data is not working good, you can directly call out with your number. Mind you, in the Dominican, nobody calls each other directly. We do not send text messages. Everything is being done on social platforms like WhatsApp. But it's good to have, and I think our audience should know that.
Yes. Sure. So that means if he would have had a SIM card from here, the Visa number, that the code that they wanted to text Roger would have been working.
Would have been worked, yes,
No,
because
it-
it's a plus
Excuse-
one number.
It's a plus one.
Yes.
What happened was my credit card has my 807 number from Canada.
Do you
Oh,
keep
so
your
they
number?
want to
to
send
it.
it to that.
So I went and got an I went and got a card
A SIM,
put in my
yes,
phone.
yes.
The day that I went, and
Yes, that's true.
because Zach had told me you need a SIM card. So I went down, and even though I was on the computer trying to get my airline tickets, they're still trying to connect my 807 number from Canada. It's not connected to that. I've got a new eSIM, so I've got a new number
Not an eSIM.
or a new
SIM
SIM
card,
yes.
yeah. I always tell my travel buddy, partner, whoever it is, I say, if we get lost, if it's an emergency, take your phone off of airplane mode.
Yes.
I don't care. You're going to pay $15 a day. I don't care. Safety comes first. Take it off of airplane. But when you're in a panic mode, sometimes you can't think fast enough.
I think that's the easiest way.
That is the easiest
If
way, yeah.
there's an
That way your
emergency.
number still works.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's a less stress sometimes. There is no value. You can't put a dollar amount to it.
And there another thing, Nancy has very good insurance from the educators,
Plan.
and I think that they ended up reimbursing us for everything. So if I would have taken it off of airplane mode, it was an emergency.
Could have claimed that.
We probably could have claimed that for the week, the extra week we were there. I could have had my phone on, and I wouldn't have needed the SIM card and all that. Like we were learning as we were going, and
Absolutely.
it was not an easy time.
And that's why your experience, there is a huge value on giving us your time today and sharing this with our audience, because anybody can be in this position. I personally never had the travel insurance because I always book with my credit card and I rely on that. However, you're the second incident that I deal with in the third incident that I deal with in the DR with the health. And I've started to really look into it, because sometimes age doesn't matter how old you are. You're 70, 50, 30, 10, anything can happen. and you need to be prepared for that. So we very much appreciate you sharing this with our audience so they can be prepared. Your hard times will create good times for them. At least they will come with more peace of mind, more prepared to it. Before I forget, you touched on the flights because that hurt me. You said you spent over $3,000 on return tickets because, you know, airline companies, I find it very fascinating and terrible.
There's an algorithm. And when you call from the same computer,
they track you.
They knew that I went in the first day or the first hour, and I had $1,200 tickets. When that didn't work, I went back on and I started the process all over again, got to the payment part. When I clicked on it it was now $1,600. Then, you know, it was going up by $400 or $500 every time I was.
But there is a catch. When we were talking to it, that you said, I didn't even need to do that. Can you elaborate on that? If anybody ever deal with something
when
like
the insurance made the plans for Nancy to come home, they got her a traveling nurse to come here. He was from Miami. Wow. There's traveling nurses all over the world.
Hired by insurance.
Yes, they work for insurance companies, and that's their job. They come in with their kit, and he knows what she went through. He got the report, and he knew exactly what equipment he needed to come from Miami to here. He flew with us from the Dominican through Toronto to Thunder Bay, had a car waiting for us when we got off the plane in Thunder Bay, drove us to the house, came into the house and took her vitals before he left. He wanted to make sure that everything, that's the insurance that we have.
That is amazing.
It is.
Now, what car picked you up from the airport? And
he's the one that arranged it all.
Didn't you guys say it was a limousine or something?
Yeah, it was a black SUV limo.
Yes. So when you do things in the right way, you get the right care. And I can't believe they actually sent somebody from Miami to assist you from here till you
and
get
he spoke
home.
Spanish, so he could get around. He was awesome.
And when did he get to you? When you were ready to depart?
The day before.
The day before, he came to the condo and he took my vitals. He asked me if I could breathe properly because he had some type of equipment that he could take with him.
Yeah.
And the next day he came, picked us up in the morning. I needed a special injection before flying. And then he accompanied us.
To reduce the chances of blood clots.
Up in the air.
Pressure.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And every 2 hours in the flight, he would check my vitals. And there was another traveling nurse on the same flight flying with an older couple back to Ottawa. So these two traveling nurses were chatting together. And that was my first experience. I didn't even know these existed. No.
So they were in first class. Mm-hmm. I had booked 2 other tickets with what I had done, where my son had booked for me. At $3,800. We get to the airport and they ask me so I get my ticket and I said, well, my wife is sitting in first class with this traveling nurse. He was with us. So they arranged all that. And then a couple of times they said, well, how come there's 2 Nancy Fournier Leclercs? Well, she was sitting beside me, plus she was, well, then when they saw that this seat was going to be empty, they sold it to somebody. So when I got back and I tried to claim that $3,800, they said, no, we'll pay for one ticket. We're not going to pay for the other one. Yeah. And so I went back on Air Canada and I said, I want you to pay because you filled my seat.
Yeah.
Why am I having to pay for 2 tickets when...
somebody else sat
so
there.
The insurance wouldn't pay for that one, but they ended up giving me, Air Canada gave me a credit.
Mm-hmm. Which is better than...
Which is better than nothing.
So the lesson here, I would say, is I understand it can be very stressful moments, but speak to your insurance company, know what rights you have, what is covered and what not, right? So in that case, then you're not out $3,800. Because the insurance company was going to pay for your tickets.
Understand your policy and learn how it works before you leave.
Right.
I did a post on that when I went back to Canada. I wrote down everything we had been through and advice on traveling. And I don't know how many people reached out and put comments on how much they had learned from our experience.
Absolutely.
So before coming this year, I printed the brand new booklet from our insurance, and I read it and I lent it to Roger, and just to be more informed. I thought I was informed. I had missing pieces.
Important pieces.
You don't know what you don't know. When you get into a situation like this, you're better off to understand a little bit more before you travel. And
But you know what they say, you're never going to learn until you either do the mistake or go through the situation that you have to learn.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to avoid all of this through others' experiences, to the people who are planning to move here, be a snowbird, do whatever. But even if you come for 3 days, come prepared.
we've
You
met
can go
people
horse-
that don't have insurance.
I believe that. You can go horseback riding, God forbid. Fall off the horse. We had an incident with our friends. We went ATV riding. Who knew? I've done ATV rides hundreds of times with different type of people. He flipped the ATV, broke the knee. Somewhere, no signal, no nothing. What do? You keep calm. But at least we go with guides who know, right? Don't wander around. Be prepared. Print your booklet for your insurance, so you have everything.
Absolutely. I think I would like to add to that, Linda, that it's part of the preparation. Before, when we used to travel, with the children and all that, I took upon myself to organize all the trips. So I had this this traveling file. And Roger always trusted me with the traveling and organizing everything. I think now with this experience is before we left, Roger wanted to be more informed after what we've been through last year. So I was just going through the file together now and saying, okay, this is the booklet. This is photocopies of our passport, photocopies of all our credit cards, whatever we have in our wallet.
That's a good one, the passport. When we got to the hospital, we had photocopies, but we were in so much pressure to leave, we grabbed the passports.
Originals.
When we went to the hospital, they asked, do you have Nancy's passport? I gave it to them. They didn't give me her passport until 5 days later when they released her from the hospital.
And they got paid.
Yes. You bet.
Right. So,
You better have to give a copy.
Red circle. Even if you're under pressure, you never hand out your original passport. In the Dominican Republic, whether you're going out for excursions, anywhere, never carry the original of your IDs. It's not required. Have a picture in your phone, have a photocopy in your bag, and never hand out. Because if something happens, for some reason, insurance is late to pay them, they will hold that. They will not give that back to you. But if you don't have it, you don't have it.
No. So I made 2 copies. Photocopied everything. We had a list of our medication. That was another thing, that he brought all my medication to the hospital by ambulance when I was driven in. So now our traveling file is a lot more complete, and we are both aware that if there's an emergency, again, to myself or to Roger, then I know what to do. I'm more prepared. I have all the numbers with me, the questions to ask. So until you go through it, you just
don't know.
Unless you have a podcast like this.
For sure. And what I want to know, and in terms of because, you had your experience, but what was going through your mind? What was the experience when you first arrived there? What was the service like? Can you combine? I have a bunch of questions here to ask. And just give us your experience about when you first arrived there. Were you hesitant to go to the hospital? I mean, you had to go. You had no choice.
I had no choice. I wasn't hesitant.
You weren't. I was.
Yeah, but
you were in a pain. She was.
You're in a country you don't know what what kind of service you're going to get. So it was all new to us when we went in, and
I was a little bit afraid because I didn't know what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And with the language barrier,
I think Nancy's just take the pain away is what she was. So I was dealing with all the doctors and the nurses and, making sure that everything was okay. But when they went up into the surgery, I didn't know what she was going to have, and she ended up having major surgery. 4 hours later, they came out of surgery and they gave us the details. It was scary. There was a few things that happened that she had a bunch of bubbles in her, and it was the gases that
She's in the recovery room.
Uh-huh.
So they ended up putting some gas inside of her to bloat her so that they
Can go in.
Yes.
Interesting.
And for 5 days, her IV was always leaking on the ground. She was getting medicine, and it was going on the floor. We kept having to call it. So there was little things that the technology may not be as good as at home.
Yeah.
But from a service standpoint, from surgery, from everything,
Care.
they were really
Excellent care. They would come in as a team, the surgeon, the doctor, and 4 other professionals. They would talk about my case with flip charts. Like, they had morning meetings in my room to talk about me, to see how everything was going.
with one person that could speak English.
And let me know. And the first night, the surgeon himself went out and got dinner for me because the cafeteria was closed and I was starving.
And I left.
And he was already gone?
I had to go back and do the...
Could you stay with her as a
Yes.
family member?
Yes,
did.
I did. I had a bed and...
They gave him towels to have a shower.
It was it wasn't a bed. It was a
sofa bed.
sofa.
I'm asking these questions, but I did see their room because I went at night to visit
Yes.
them. And you guys had a private room because I
Yes.
went up to I believe it was 3rd floor, and they let us in. I explained them what I needed. Tanya was there to translate my broken Spanish to them. And then you had a private room that had 2 sections. You come in,
Sections, yes.
like if you have somebody waiting for you, they could sit there.
Had a
and then-
small fridge to put, like, thank you so much. That I needed water. You brought apple juice, cookies, and Kleenex. I remember it was all the essentials.
There's a thing here. There's not a whole lot of nursing on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in the Dominican, they rely on family to be there
to help.
so that when she needed to go to the bathroom, I could help her go to the bathroom. That they're not always
Right.
called, because if you're on the button and there was maybe a dozen rooms on
And
that
2
floor,
nurses.
all private.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, guys, we haven't mentioned this part yet. They were in CMC Hospital, which is a private care hospital located in the center of Sosúa. They're fairly small, and we recommend it for people for emergencies. If there is important matter, you go to Santiago, Santo Domingo, there's bigger hospitals. I had a client that had a problem in her brain. I was in Turkey, and they called me. They knew nobody but really me. I suggested somebody, and the person told them, hey, you need to rush to the hospital. This doesn't look normal. They go to the hospital, they do the scan, and they figure out that there is a bleeding in the brain. Santiago, Santo Domingo ain't no option anymore. But thankfully, they also had insurance. So she got airlifted from Sosúa here with a helicopter at a very low altitude to Miami.
Wow.
To Miami. They did not let the husband go with them. And at that point, they weren't able to travel. It was during COVID time. So they had to go back to Canada, travel through the ground border, land, drive all the way to Miami with their kids because they couldn't fly.
Okay.
So if Sosúa CMC is a great place for smaller emergencies. I'm really glad that they were able to help you, and they did an amazing job right away.
Oh, they did.
But if it's something major, there is help. But the insurance, again, highlight. If you have a good coverage, good insurance, then they will be able to get you to the higher degree of attention and assistance if needed. Fly you to Miami or whatever you need. So I appreciate you guys sharing that aspect of it. You mentioned something. You said that as soon as you got the case number, they started attending her right away. You were downstairs. They put her through the surgery. She wanted to see you as the last person. What happened? Did they explain you the process before they put you to the hospital, like to this emergency
Surgery? No, I
surgery
think
room?
they didn't know what was wrong with me, so that's why they went in and did a scope to be able to assess what was wrong. And it was probably a very important emergency that they needed to operate right away since I was already under.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so there was no time to be wasted.
No time to be wasted in consulting Roger, I think. So that's why Roger was upset when I came out in recovery
When they
without
told me
knowing.
what they did to her, I was scared she was going to be mad at me
Because
that I let them do this. Like this was a surgery that there was actually two things wrong. And, you can say that you had an appendicitis.
Yeah, acute appendicitis on the right-hand side, and the other side was a cyst that erupted. So they took out the fallopian tube and the ovary, which is,
So
two things
I
at
was
the same
scared,
time.
hey, they took some of her female parts away, and here I am, like she's going to wake up and she's going to be very mad at me.
Yeah.
But Nancy was like, she was out of pain. When I saw the pictures from the surgeon afterwards of what
Took
her...
pictures from
this
during the
camera.
surgery.
In case if you didn't believe her, here
Well-
it is.
Well, and when I saw that and what they looked like, I knew at that point that, yes, this was something that needed to be done.
Needed to be done. And in terms of the cost, was it costly? Did you have to pay out of the pocket? Did the insurance
We don't
cover
know
it?
how
We
much
don't
it
know.
was, but I'm sure 5 days and major surgery like that is going to be very expensive. We met somebody not too long ago that had open heart here.
Yeah, but I don't think that's relevant to
Well, no.
the situations. If you have a pre-existing condition, then you may have issues with your insurance.
Right.
So it wasn't our
If
case.
you didn't declare that
Yes.
you need to and you get
Yeah,
insurance,
so-
that Yeah.
Be aware that if you're traveling and you have pre-existing, they may not want to cover you. So that is something you want to be careful.
insurance is an amazing thing, but sometimes they're the biggest fraud. Why does it matter? I need insurance. I'm a person, and just try to stay healthy. Try to take care of yourself
Yes.
because that's the biggest assets that we have. And then be happy and then be prepared. So the insurance covered the
Yes.
cost.
Yes.
So there was no cost to you guys. And how was the post-surgery? How long did you stay in the hospital?
I stayed here 5 days and another 5 days before I was able to fly out.
So in total, you guys fly back like 10 days after.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Which is good. You had some time to recover. So they
Yes.
kept you 5 days because in Canada, let's be honest, you get a surgery and they send you home next day.
Well, unless it's major surgery.
Unless it's major
surgery, they'll keep you for a few days,
Yeah.
depending where you are, at what hospital.
Yeah.
But no, I stayed here for 5 days. I think they needed to monitor because they wasn't aware that I was also anemic, but it was normal in my body. So they kept checking my blood every day to see if it was, if everything was improving.
Everything was good.
But yeah, the recovery back home was about 6 to 8 weeks. And I had many follow-ups all the way until November. So about 8 months after, I saw different specialists back home in Canada.
Very good, yeah.
I had 3 medical reports from here that were translated and be able to be shared with the medical field back home.
Yeah.
And everything was done properly.
Amazing. Yeah. The follow-ups are very important. So after all of this dealing, what was surprising to you and what was unexpected? Was there anything that you were like surprised that, wow, this was way better than I thought it would be throughout your experience, like in the hospital with the doctors?
I think it was for me anyways, it was when I started walking at the hospital, just looking at the furniture, the leather couches, the glass table, like I wasn't expecting a modern hospital. I wasn't expecting that. And I was very surprised with the care and how they treated me, and they would come in and talk about my case, and if I had questions.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I saw the ultrasound, I saw the X-ray. There's older equipment here. I don't know where they get it from, if it's brought in from other countries. For what they did to Nancy, I think that they did a hell of a good job with the equipment they have.
Mm-hmm.
When you see an IV dripping on the ground every day, it's not the equipment that you would see in Canada.
Right.
So there might be a lower standard in some of this stuff. Yes, there's leather couches, and yes, it's a private hospital.
And it was
very clean.
Yeah, it's essentially like a big clinic. CMC is like a big clinic that we have, right? They're not as equipped to do so much. It's a private care. The gentleman who owns it lives in the area. It is nothing big and fancy, but it's good for when you don't have anywhere to go and you need to go now. But as I mentioned, if you want to, like Santiago, Santo Domingo.
Yes, I was told by another doctor, she says, I'm surprised you had surgery in Sosúa. I thought you would have had it in Santiago.
Right.
My friend.
But they're capable of doing it, and they're very informative. They're very educated. They know a lot as the doctors, as the nurses. So in Canada, sometimes when you have all the fancy equipments and shiny stuff and brand new millions of dollars equipment, you don't have the knowledge. So that you're looking at the device, but you have no idea what you're prescribing to your client or what you're doing to the patient. So before we wrap up, I want to know, what would you recommend to our audience who is planning to come to the DR for several months? What are the care package that they should be aware of? I know you touched into a bunch of stuff already, but as a wrap of our conversations, what would you say that they should?
Preparation. Have your travel file ready. Have the partner you will be traveling with aware, communicate together. If anything happens, these are my wishes. I think it's preparedness.
Your cell phone package.
Cell phone, photocopies of your passport, photocopies of your insurance, your booklet.
Yes.
To have exactly what's covered, what's not covered.
Absolutely.
Know that turning off airplane mode is probably the simplest thing that you can do.
Get familiar with the translator. It's going to help you out in a lot of places, not just in the emergencies. And the most important, when you come here, please don't just have drinking buddies. It's 5 p.m. all the time on the island. Build meaningful relationships with people. Elaborate on that, because I remember you were talking about this.
I created a community right away with Zumba friends, with, presenting a workshop at the networking business session. And that's how we met. I already knew Natalie.
Right.
So with this beautiful community, when you're in dire need, who did we call to get a ride? We called Natalie. We called you for a few reasons, and you came out as a trooper to help us. And we had other friends from Canada helped us with the condo. We met people at the pool that helped Roger with the luggage. Create a community. Don't be afraid. Don't stay cocooned up, sitting at your pool drinking all day.
Right, exactly.
Do other things.
Absolutely. And guys, the difference between, I would say, Dominican Republic, places that are like very warm climate, and we come here is we come to create that community, right? Even if you are new in the community, a lot of people are going to welcome you. They're going to take you in with the hard arms. Cell phones here are not a big thing. People are not on their devices all the time. They value one-on-one conversations and building that rapport, building that friendship, having the same like-minded people. So create that crew for yourself. It's very, very, very easy here to make friends, right? Have those valuable people around you, and you will get to know your people during the emergency time,
Absolutely.
right?
And learn basic Spanish or any type of language of the country you're going to go to.
Absolutely.
How to say good morning, thank you. It's very appreciated, and it shows that you're making these connections.
Absolutely. And be kind to locals all the time. You never know who your path is going to cross with when you're in a difficult moment. I've had this before, and the people that I simply just smile and say hi and just be a regular human and nice to them, they have come through to help me out. So be nice, make your contacts, make your connections. And after this experience, it's so good to see you guys coming back the next year during your anniversary. And I'm glad that you came back. Was this a hard decision for you?
I needed to ground myself when I went back home and to process all this. But I was on a mission when I came back. I really wanted to go back to the hospital, bring a thank you card that I translated in Spanish. I brought chocolates from Canada. I walked on the last beach. I walked on before leaving. There was triggering moments, of course, but I needed to come back.
And you came back and you made your peace with it.
Yes.
And you
We'll
are
be back next year.
satisfied. Fantastic. Very good. It's lovely having you guys here. I cannot express my gratefulness to you guys joining today, because I do believe that this is going to be probably the most valuable podcast that we have done so far to our clients. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about insurance companies in the Dominican Republic, in Canada and US. I don't know. I don't have answers for that. But in the DR, if you're planning on coming to stay here, it's always good. I told you this yesterday, to have a second citizenship and second insurance, right? In the DR, it is very affordable to have insurance. Yearly, it's about, depending on your age and your condition, if you have a background of any illness or not, it starts from $500 all the way to $1,000 a person per year. But listen, in looking at the costs in the US per year that they pay $10,000, it's cheap. And we have clients that fly here to get stuff done through their insurance here from US. So look into it. We can provide you insurance companies. They can give you valuable information so you can see if it's something that you would like to get. Please keep in mind, I'm going to highlight under it, if you're over 70 years old, it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to source an insurance. They will give you an emergency insurance that will give you airlift or anything like that. They will transfer you back to your country, but giving care here, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So if you're planning to relocate here, please get in touch with the insurance company, find out. Anything after 65 gets difficult. So if you're below 65, get on that, get your insurance. The worst case, you're not going to move here and you're going to cancel it, but it's better to have it than not have it, because we have some challenges with some of our clients not being able to get. Is there anything else that you would like to touch on before I wrap up?
No, not
We covered
really.
pretty much
I think
everything.
we covered pretty much
Awesome.
everything.
Well, I'm grateful, and I'm sorry that you had to experience what you experienced, but it has been a valuable lesson for us, so we appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you guys again next year. Guys, if you are planning on your personal growth or starting your podcast, please look deeper into Nancy's page. Get in touch with her. Again, her information is going to be below. Like our page. Share this with anyone that is planning on coming to the Dominican Republic, and comment below if you have any questions. Get in touch with me directly. I'll be happy to help you guys out. My name is Linda Bahar, owner of Linda Bahar Realty Group. My goal is to help as many people as possible to achieve the freedom and being able to skip their cold winters and come enjoy the sunshine with us. Thank you for watching this episode, and see you guys at our next one.